So welcome back to another rebuild here on NBA 2K25 Next Gen. In today's video, we are back with another episode of our LeBron Era rebuild series. Today it's going to be the Indiana Pacers. Now, of course, the LeBron era starts at the beginning of the 2010-2011 NBA season, so this Pacers team certainly wasn't in full form as it eventually got to a couple years later. We all think back some of those great battles between Paul George and LeBron James in the playoffs, and ultimately, this team's not quite there yet. It's a very interesting mix of talent on this group. There are certainly some established players that have been in the league for a little while. There's also some young talent. We have a guy named Paul George. He ends up being a pretty good NBA player. My goal today is to obviously develop him, this team, as much as possible. Hopefully get them a championship. It seems like you guys have been really enjoying this series, and I really do want to thank all of you for all of the support. It always means a lot to know that you guys have actually been enjoying these videos, and that's why I continue to do them. So I'm going to finish up this series relatively soon, probably within the next month or so. So, eventually we're going to get to all 30 teams, but if we have not done the team you want to see next, let me hear that along with any other video ideas down below in the comment section. But excited for this one today. I, of course, have done a few of these, so I know how well Paul George does develop. Very excited to get to use him. So let's get into it. Okay, let's go ahead and take a dive in, discuss this roster a little bit. I'll give you some of my thoughts and really the way I see this thing playing out. In real life, this was a 37-win team. They fired their coach midway through the season, and ultimately, they were nowhere near actually competing for a championship. So we certainly have a lot of work to do here today, especially with the development of some of our younger guys. So starting out here at the point guard spot, Darren Collison's 23 years old. He is already an 80 overall, which is great news. Is Darren Collison going to be my starting point guard the entirety of today's video? I don't know the answer to that question yet, but if he continues to develop and plays well, I certainly do think it is a possibility. Behind him, we have TJ Ford, who's 27 years old. He's a 77 overall. I certainly don't think neither of those things are bad. The contract obviously coming up in this offseason is going to be interesting to pay attention to, but certainly not a terrible backup point guard option. Then we have a 24-year-old AJ Price. I don't really have much to say about AJ Price. The shooting guard spot, definitely one of the weaker positions. This is obviously a user-created Lance Stevenson because he is not in the game, but he's only 20. He's a 74 overall. Of course, eventually becomes a pretty impactful NBA player. Of course, we all think back to some of the shenanigans we saw between him and LeBron James in those great playoff battles, but this isn't obviously real Lance, so I don't know how he's going to develop. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. Behind him, Brandon Rush is here. Again, nice depth piece. Hopefully that overall can jump a bit. The small forward spot's going to be very interesting because there's certainly some depth here. It's probably our deepest position without a doubt. Now, Danny Granger had been in the NBA for some time. This was, I believe, one of his top 3 best seasons in his career. After this, I believe, spent 2 more years in Indiana. And then kind of fell off a little bit. I don't know if there was a significant injury or something like that. But, he is our highest overall player at this point in time. I'm not saying I'm going to give him up for nothing, but the one thing we obviously do not want to happen today would be hindering the development of this man right here, Paul George. So, PG-13 is 20 years old at this point in time. He's an 80 overall already. I have to have him in the starting lineup. There's just no way around that. So you got Mike Dunleavy here as well. Certainly a nice rotation piece for us. Dante Jones, and finally James Posey, Celtics legend James Posey. So obviously 5 guys that are probably rotation worthy at that spot. We're not going to have all of them obviously, but we'll sort that out. Power forward spot, Tyler Hansborough, UNC legend. I don't know. He's a 79 overall. He never becomes really anything in the NBA. We'll figure it out. You got Solomon Jones behind him, and then Josh McRoberts. Talk about a name I have not heard in a minute. And then finally, the center spot with a 23-year-old Roy Hibbert. This is certainly going to be one of the other players I'm definitely looking to develop as much as possible here today. He's going to be kind of one of the key cornerstone pieces for this franchise at this point. And then a 33-year-old Jeff Foster. So, there's some pretty good depth here. Again, I do think there's 1 or 2 moves I want to make. We certainly have to clear out a bit of a log jam at that small forward spot. So let's go ahead, figure that out, and I'll see you guys at this rotation. We're making a trade here with the Washington Wizards, and I think it's a pretty interesting one. We're sending out Mike Dunleavy and Jeff Foster, and in return, we're getting ourselves 80 overall Andre Blatch, only 24 years old, and then Kirk Heinrich as well. So I am only really trading both these players because they're expiring deals, and they both are 30-plus years old. Now, that I have to force the issue, I don't say that would be 100% necessary, but I think setting ourselves up for some, future solidified contracts is always a good idea. So I don't know if Andre Blatch is starting. I have no idea what we're going to do, but we will certainly sort that out. Yeah, it's either going to be him or Tyler Hansborough. So I think that's a pretty good start to the moves. Ultimately, I did decide to move rookie Paul George to the shooting guard spot. His overall went down too. It's probably not going to be his permanent position, but I have to get him into the starting lineup. There's no doubt about that. So that's one trade down. I think we're actually going to have a few more than I initially anticipated. We have found ourselves a new backup center. It is going to come in a deal with the Utah Jazz. TJ Ford, who is obviously not really the odd man out, but after the trade we just made, adding Kirk Heinrich, TJ Ford's also an expiring contract, and we desperately do need ourselves a backup big man. So Mehmet Okur going to be coming in here. Of course, he's 31 years old. It's not my favorite age in the world, but on a multi-year deal along with the first-round pick, it was simply just too good to pass up on. So technically speaking, I think we can kind of just run this thing. I don't think we have to force a trade. At this point, we have obviously some pretty good depth, and I think everybody here is more than deserving of their minutes. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. If anybody wants to give me a draft pick for Josh McRoberts, I'm certainly not going to say no, thank you very much, Chicago. And I think that'll do it here for year one. So we're probably not going to be great. I actually should have checked. Do we have our own first-round pick this year? We do. That's obviously pretty big. But at this point, we're going to set the rotation and see how things work. Now ready to go for our first season here in Indiana. We have established a starting five that I think that makes the most sense to me on paper. It's going to be Darren Collison, Paul George, Danny Granger, Andre Blatch, and then Roy Hibbert. I guess the only real decision I had here was it going to be Andre Blatch or Tyler Hansbrough? 2K suggested Blatch. That's what I'm going to go with. Kirk Heinrich, going to be my sixth man off the bench. Tyler Hansbrough not far behind him. Of course, just added Mehmet Okur. Still got Dante Jones and Lance Stevenson, or, fake Lance Stevenson rounding out this rotation. So, I think we are in a pretty good place in terms of future success. Ultimately, I don't expect this team to, really be competing for anything too serious here in year one. That being said, there's always a possibility we do make the playoffs. So we will all find that out together at the end of year number one. Year one was actually a lot better than I thought we were going to be. 46-36 was the final record. Of course, as I mentioned earlier in this video, they only won 37 games in real life, so yeah, thanks 2K. Russell Westbrook going to be your MVP. Blake Griffin, Rookie of the Year, as he was in real life. You got Manu Ginobili winning Sixth Man. Timmy D winning DPOY. Russ also wins Most Improved. And Phil Jackson going to be your Coach of the Year at 63-19. So we're in the playoffs. We're a 5 seed. You can see it right there. Let's take a look at the full standings right now. Ended up being, not really anything super special, but definitely above what my expectations were. So I'll take it for a year one. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the numbers real quick. See how everybody played for us. Danny Granger leading the charge in the scoring department. Andre Blatch looks like a really nice pickup. Didn't think he'd be our second leading scorer, but he was. Roy Hibbert, Paul George, Darren Collison, Hansbrough, Okur, Heinrich, Dante Jones, Lance Stevenson. Rebounding department, we are led by Roy Hibbert. And assists going to be Collison, almost 8 a game. Not too bad. Okay, Orlando here in round one. They are a good team. Obviously, they have the best player in the series. I don't think anybody is denying that with Dwight Howard. But, could we maybe pull off an upset with our depth? I don't know. We'll find out. Split the first 2 on the road. Win game 3 at home and game 4. Okay. And we're going to game 7. We've lost 2 straight games. And we lose 3 straight games and blow a 3-1 lead. All right. Disappointing ending. It was a pretty promising season. I'm not going to lie to you. Really tough series for Darren Collison. It's just 34% from the field. There's no way to really turn that into a positive. Mehmet Okur, Kirk Heinrich, nobody was really that great. All right, so, first round ceiling, not the end of the world. It kind of is what it is. Technically, the Lakers would have won 3 in a row at this point. Kobe Bryant, yet another Finals MVP. So we are going to enter the first offseason feeling very optimistic. I think we ultimately exceeded my internal expectations. Of course, once you get to the playoffs and you are up 3-1, you'd like to think you can close out the series, but we're not going to, dread on it too much. I think there's a lot of positive things heading in to this first offseason. So we'll take a look at the draft lottery. We obviously are not going to be in it. It is the Bucks, Grizzlies, Raptors, Wizards, and then Kings. Now up to staff signing, Frank Vogel, who technically took over midway through this season for this team. I think with the season we just had, although the blown 3-1 lead does suck, I think we did kind of exceed expectations a little bit. So I'll hang on to Frank Vogel for now. Those ratings are not getting me super excited, so we will kind of go on a year-to-year basis with old Frank over there. All right, it is the 2011 NBA Draft. It's a loaded class. We have the 20th overall pick in round 1 and then 21 in round 2. Ultimately, we do have a lot of depth on this team, which I think is a really good thing. I will probably still end up drafting somebody just because I think I always get more value by actually drafting a player versus just trading the pick. But the second round pick can go. I definitely am not going to need that. So, sure. Thanks, Chicago. All right, let's just see who's sitting here on the board for us at number 20. I got Tobias Harris recently, but it kind of goes without being said. I think he's pretty clearly the best player sitting here right now. So I don't know if, he's going to play. I think it's certainly a possibility, but at worst, he's going to be a really nice trade piece for us. Everybody here is going to be brought back. Qualifying offers, Strumhal Swift. He was on this team. Did I miss that? And then here in free agency, of course, one of the biggest things we were trying to set ourselves up for was not really having any major free agents. So we've done a good job of that so far. I do think I want to kind of trim down some of this depth. It's a really good thing, but I also do think this team needs a little bit more star power. Oh, whoa. Did not think that was going to go through. Okay, we just pulled off a big one, a blockbuster to say the least, and we added John Wall to this team. Now, I certainly gave up a lot to get him, but he's John Wall. He's easily the best player in this deal. So, Darren Collison, who I thought overall-wise, played pretty decent for us, obviously had a tough playoff series, but I'm taking John Wall 10 times out of 10. And then Andre Blatch was an expiring deal. He played fantastic for us, so, go ahead and move him while his value is as high as possible. And then I'm not worried about Dante Jones, James Posey, or our first-round pick next year. But John Wall is already an 87 overall. I think he makes this team infinitely better, and I think he's going to be a really, really nice addition to this group. Oh, another one. Wow, I did not think we were going to be able to do this. Another blockbuster. Didn't think it was going to go through. My apologies. Danny Granger, don't have a problem with him. I just think ultimately moving Paul George back to his natural position at small forward was kind of always going to be my end goal this offseason, and obviously acquiring a nice upgrade here with Brandon Roy is going to be very, very nice. So, we've added two really good players while only giving up 2 first-round draft picks. I think that's about as big of a win as we possibly could have had so far, and now this team is obviously still in a really good spot, maybe lacking some of that elite depth that we did have last year, but I'm not super worried about it. So, Wall and Heinrich, Brandon Roy now going to need a backup. Paul George, kind of same thing. Honestly, I'll probably let Hansborough run the starting power forward spot. I'm hoping that overall continues to go up, and he does have a year of team control after this season. So, worst comes to worst, we'll maybe include him in a bigger deal moving forward. And then Roy Hibbert's going to be expiring next offseason. Not that I have a problem re-signing him, but I probably would not sign a 33-year-old at that point, old Mehmet Okur. So if anybody's willing to deal me somebody a little bit better, like honestly Drew Gooden, maybe I move Tobias Harris to the backup small forward spot. I think that's probably my play. I get Trevor Ariza a decent amount, so I'll probably pass on that. All right, so not terrible offers here. Dragic, I've played that game before. He hits free agency, you almost lose him for nothing every single time. So yeah, let's pick up Drew Gooden, giving up a second-round pick as well. I'll just move Tobias Harris to the small forward spot where he actually jumps up in overall, and then we'll just sign some other free agents. Again, we're probably going to hurt a little bit in terms of the overall depth on this team, but I'm not super worried about it. So shooting guard, wow, we actually have money here in free agency. Holy smokes. Okay, did not think we were going to have any real cash to spend, but we do. So here in free agency, I'm thinking obviously Young. Shannon Brown, not a bad option. I do get him from time to time. Same with Aaron Aflalo. Daquan Cook sitting here. Ooh, Corey Brewer actually could be a nice pickup. I'd be willing to give Corey Brewer some money. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the center options here. I mean, we could go after one of the big names, but that's probably just not going to happen. So Perkins could be okay. Spencer Hawes is only 25 or 23, excuse me. All right, I'll probably give Kendrick Perkins money just because he's only a few overalls lower than any of the other options, and he's not making a lot of money there. So Brewer and Perkins both end up accepting, and we're going to bring them in now, and we have solidified our 10-man rotation heading into year number 2. I'm feeling really good about this team. I think there's a lot of possibilities with this group we have built here in Indiana. Ultimately, I did not expect an offseason that crazy. I did not think we would add not one, but 2 really big names in this backcourt, and yeah, we accomplished that pretty quickly. So John Wall, who is up to a 90 overall, of course, going to be my starting point guard. We brought in Brandon Roy in a deal with the Portland Trailblazers. Nice 85 overall. Obviously an established NBA player. PG-13 is out up to an 86 overall. So again, continuing to see his development take place. Going to be really big for us. Tyler Hansborough does now crack the starting 5, and of course still got Roy Hibbert as our starting center as well. Now I will say the bench unit maybe took a little bit of a hit. I think ultimately some of those players that were pushing 80 overall are going to hurt as losses, but I think with the star power we now have here, it won't be nearly as bad. So Corey Brewer taking over as my 6th man. Drew Gooden behind him, of course, brought in Kendrick Perkins. Drafted Tobias Harris, and finally Kirk Heinrich, maybe the one remaining bench piece we had from last year. So I'm excited. I think there's a lot of possibilities with this team. Last year, I think we would safe to say we overachieved. So expectations are in place. I'd certainly like to be a top 4 seed. And I'll see you guys at the end of year number 2. It is back-to-back MVPs in Oklahoma City. This time around, it's going to be Kevin Durant taking home the award. More importantly, we go 61-21 here in year 2, which I'm loving right now. Kawhi Leonard ended up in Milwaukee. He wins Rookie of the Year. Who? Okay. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, that name, strikes a memory. It doesn't. I have no fucking idea who this is. This is probably not even a real person, but okay. Timmy D wins another DPOY. You got Lance Stevenson, an old friend, winning Most Improved. I'm not sweating it. And then Keith Smart, 65 wins in Golden State. I thought we may have the best record in the league. We did not. Let's go over the standings here real quick. We did have the best record in the East, which is obviously fantastic news. Could you imagine winning 60 games and being a 4 seed. Thank God they abolished the stupid conference or stupid division rule. And then here is a look at the Western Conference. Let's talk about the numbers here real quick for this team. Led in scoring by John Wall. He was just absolutely out of this world good. I still cannot believe we got him, for what we honestly gave up. Brandon Roy, Roy Hibbert, Paul George, still not really moving a lot in the scoring department, but ultimately, if we're winning games, that's fine by me. Tyler Hansbrough, not bad, about 11 points, 9 boards a game. That shooting percentage a little low for a power forward, especially in this, these days, but I'll live. Drew Gooden, Tobias Harris, Brewer, Perkins, and then Heinrich. Rebounding department, led by Roy Hibbert, and then assists going to be John Wall at double-digit assist. Truly a thing of beauty. All right, the Milwaukee Bucks here in round 1. You got Brandon Jennings, old-ass Tracy McGrady at 32. Well, he's actually not as old as I thought he was. Rookie Kawhi, you got Jason Smith in here. Andrew Bogut. That is some interesting spacing, my friends. I think we're the better team. I don't think there's really any denying that. I think John Wall is the best player in this series, and we sweep them. Now moving on to the Orlando Magic. Of course, the team that came back from being down 3-1 against us last year ultimately did end up beating us, and we're looking to get a little revenge right now. I think that kind of goes without being said. I want to advance to our first conference finals of this video. So we're 2-2 right now with the Magic. We go down 3-2, and Orlando just has our number, man. They really do. That's a tough ending. Oh, brother. All right, John Wall was pretty good. Paul George, not a great series out of Hibbert. Brutal series out of Hibbert. Oh, not bad for Roy. Woof. 37% from the field as a 7'2" center. Oh, boy. Not great for Hansbrough as well. He was only 37.5% from the field. So, our big men were getting exposed by Dwight Howard. That kind of goes without being said. And obviously, they went on to win it all anyway. So, at least we can say we lost to the champs. But, you win 61 games. You at least want to get to a conference final. So, we're going to have to, make some big, tough decisions this offseason. But, in the back of my head, I think I know what really has to happen. We're going to sim through the draft lottery. Of course, we're not going to have a pick in said lottery. But nonetheless, we are going to go ahead and do what I think you're all probably expecting me to do. Frank Vogel, I think, is a fine coach. Obviously, he's had a successful NBA career. But, I just need somebody a little bit better. So, unfortunately, I can't really sign any of the guys here because the assistant, coaching position, whenever you try to sign them as a head coach, it gets blocked, which I've done multiple rants about. It's complete bullshit. 2K needs to fix this moving forward. Not that they ever fix anything, but it's just a little ridiculous in my opinion. So, ooh, okay, this guy's pretty good. Phil Jackson, no idea why he'd want to come to Indiana, but I'd certainly be willing to bring him in. Yeah, these coaches just do not have good ratings here. Otis Newman's an assistant head coach that currently has no offers, or he's not with a team, he's not affiliated with anybody. So, you know what? I'll honestly give a shot to an assistant that's, kind of homeless at this point. Not homeless and real homeless. He's homeless in terms of a job. And then I'll also consider an offer here for maybe Mike Budenholzer, who has pretty good ratings at this point. Probably going to get blocked, but why the hell not? All right, Budenholzer's blocked. Phil Jackson's tentative. So I guess Otis Newman's going to be my guy. Hopefully it works out. I don't really know. Okay, it is time for the 2012 NBA draft. Almost positive I traded my pick. I did. So we're not going to be drafting anybody this year. Wall, George, Hansbrough, that's awesome. They're all going to be brought back. Roy Hibbert will be certainly extended a qualifying offer. And then we're here in what is pretty much a loaded free agency class, as good as it can possibly get. Now, a lot of these guys are restricted, just something to note. But I do think we need to make some sort of signing. I am curious what our cap situation is like. We got about $15 million right now. And that, of course, is not counting the qualifying offer on Roy Hibbert. So, Dwight Howard could be fun. My assumption is he goes back to Orlando after winning a championship. I think that, probably makes the most sense for him. But, could I give it a go? Could I maybe try something similar with a guy like Brook Lopez, who might be an upgrade over Hibbert? It's not an indictment on Hibbert, but we saw he has had, some not so great playoff performances. So, if it's possible to maybe make an upgrade, I think it would be it would be worth doing. So, Lopez could be fun. It's only asking for about, 14-ish million right now. So I think I'd give him the contract. And then do I even want to try to clear away to try to go ahead and maybe sign Dwight? I don't really see a path that Dwight Howard would be willing to sign with us. It probably includes trading Drew Gooden, but I think I'd rather just go ahead and try to get Lopez. And if not, we'll obviously go after Hibbert. So, all right, that's what we're going to do. Brook Lopez accepts. I am assuming that it's going to get matched. It does not. So we're going to take Brook Lopez over Roy Hibbert. May end up being, an incorrect decision, but I do think it's one that's very well worth it for us. So welcome to the team, Brook Lopez. Hopefully he's just a little bit better than what we had with Roy Hibbert. So at this point, I do think I want to make one other upgrade. What that is yet, I'm not really sure. We're going to try to add David West here from the New Orleans Hornets. Ultimately, Tyler Hansborough's progression and his overall play has been pretty solid, but we're heading into a championship or bust season, and I haven't even been to a conference finals yet. So I really do want to be as good as I possibly can. at every single position. So fortunately, we do have some draft capital that oh, okay, that was, again, a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Feels like a lot of the trades have been easier than I thought. At this point, we do need to find ourselves a backup power forward and a backup point guard. We unfortunately do not have a lot of money to spend. I think Patty Mills, who is a guy I've gotten in some videos, makes a lot of sense as the backup point guard here. And then the power forward options, they're not great, to say it nicely. It kind of goes without being said. I've gotten Troy Murphy before. He kind of just looks like an Indiana Pacer. He almost, in some ways, he almost looks like Johnny Furphy a little bit. All right, we'll throw money at Troy Murphy. Again, it's going to be 10 minutes a night. Who really cares? All right. Is Kevin Love unrestricted? Why is a 23-year-old Kevin Love unrestricted? God, this game's so stupid. All right, this is going to be the final squad entering year number 3. I think we've made enough upgrades, or at least I'm really hoping we have, and I'll see you guys in this rotation. Are we good enough? That, of course, is the question of the day at the moment. I think it's pretty easy to say that, yes, we are. You take a look at this starting 5. Pretty good depth as well, and seems like a championship team. But I've had teams that have been better than this not win championships. I've also had teams that have been worse than this win championships. So it's all going to depend on how 2K's feeling today. John Wall, Brandon Roy, Paul George, David West, Brook Lopez. Obviously, 2 new members in our front court I think are going to be extremely beneficial to this team in terms of winning basketball games. Bench unit remains not nearly identical. Top 3 I think are with Brewer, Harris, and then Perkins, and then obviously brought in Patty Mills. And yeah, 73 overall Troy Murphy. So hopefully that's not, the weakest part that hurts us a little bit. Do have a new head coach as well, and Otis Newman, who at this point has done nothing but be an assistant coach. So that's obviously a risk as well. So a lot of risk, a lot of possibility with this team. I'm excited, man. See you guys at the end of the final regular season. Just the perfect way to cap off this video. Not only does John Wall win the MVP award, but he leads us to what would be a historic season at this time. Well, it'd be a historic season anytime, but it is actually the greatest season in the history of basketball. 73-9. Of course, the Warriors had not happened at this point, and we're feeling really good right now. Just an unbelievable season out of our star point guard. Anthony Davis is in Phoenix. He's your rookie of the year. Devin Harris wins 6th man of the year off the bench in Brooklyn. Dwight Howard, who we almost considered signing, wins DPOY. Vucevic wins most improved. And our first-year head coach, Mr. Otis Newman, coach of the year. So finally, I think it's a safe bet we had the best record in basketball. We just completely destroyed the East. And, well, they're only 5 games behind us. So Oklahoma City, a potential finals matchup for us. Let's talk about some of the numbers for this team. It was John Wall. Brook Lopez makes all the difference in that front court. Brandon Roy, Paul George, David West. You got Harris, Brewer, Mills, Perkins, and then Murphy. Rebounding department going to be George. Wow, actually 9 boards a game for PJ. Not bad. And then 12.5 assists a game for John Wall. It is the Atlanta Hawks here in round 1. Pretty solid squad. This big 3 of Johnson, Smith, and Horford is certainly solid. I don't expect it to be the biggest challenge in the world, but it's certainly not the easiest first-round matchup. But I guess it was pretty easy. We are now moving on to the Chicago Bulls. Derrick Rose is at a 98 overall. That's pretty damn good, and he obviously has a very competent surrounding core. So, again, it is a tough one for us. It's a really good start to this series, and, well, maybe I'm making this out to be a lot harder than it actually is. And it is us in the New York Knicks here in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm not really moved by that team at all, to be honest. Okay. And we're taking on the Sacramento Kings here, who drafted Klay Thompson. Dante Green somehow always ends up at an 87+. Obviously, Boogie's elite at this point. I would honestly say the center spot is the only position they are better than us at. I mean, maybe the 6th man with Tyreek. Okay. Well, they have elite depth. They definitely beat us in the depth department. But in terms of star power, I only see the center spot. I think this is a very winnable series for us. This is an NBA TV-ass series, but I think it's a very winnable one for us, to say the least. And we're up 3-0, and it looks like we're just going to run them out of their own building here and end up sweeping the Sacramento Kings and winning our first championship of today's video. Wow, beautiful. Such a fun way to cap off this video. We are just kicking the living shit out of the Sacramento Kings right now, and we're obviously on the verge of our first championship in today's video. So I'm loving it right now. I think ultimately when we discuss the Pacers teams from, the early to mid 2010s. Obviously, there was a lot of development with Paul George, and, that really was kind of the reason, like one of the biggest turning points for them. But ultimately, they were always good. They were just never quite on the levels of some of those LeBron teams. And to be fair, I mean, nobody was really, fuck off. Nobody was really on the level of those LeBron teams. So, I'm still wondering what the end of Paul George's career looks like. He had a really, really high and really, really, like, peak. Like, he was really good at his best version. And I see some debate still to this day. Who would what would you say was the best version of Paul George? As great as he was for Indiana, I still think, some of those days in Oklahoma City where I think he finished as a top 3 MVP candidate, that's pretty hard to beat. He was so good next to Russell Westbrook. And now you think of him today, it just sucks because everybody thinks, you know, I don't think that's going to be his legacy ultimately, but I just felt like it could have. He got very close. He got very, very close. But ultimately, it's always going to be not a what if, because of course we did see Paul George at, you know, elite basketball performance, but I always just think, man, he was such a capable player, and I feel like he always could have done maybe a little more in certain circumstances. But nonetheless, we're of course going to be getting him a championship here today. That's obviously awesome to see. He's just going to take over this game right now, goes coast to coast, gets an easy layup. So yeah, man, Indiana, obviously great basketball city. Tough to see, you know. I wish Paul George got a championship there, man. It would have been really cool. Andre Blatch just giving me the business down low. All right, we're going to do one more offensive possession here. You know, this one's not really close or competitive, so, you know, no reason to really make it drag on. I'll call a little ISO here against Beno Udrih, who I expect pretty quickly to just get cooked by John Wall, and he does exactly that. Really fun way to cap off this video. It was a pretty easy playoff run, honestly. It didn't really feel like we had any serious sweat at any point, but I'll certainly take it. Now, John Wall wins regular season MVP. And also the Finals MVP this year. How often does that happen? When was the last time a guy won regular season MVP and Finals MVP? I'm trying to think. LeBron? Was it LeBron? I don't know. I have no idea. All right, man. That'll do it for me. This was a very fun rebuild. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Again, I still can't believe we were able to trade for John Wall as easily as we were. He's up to a 94 overall. He's only 22 years old, and he's already won a Finals MVP and a regular season MVP. Just absolutely out of this world. But no, thoroughly enjoyed this one. I hope you guys did as well. Of course, we have many of these to go. We're probably closer to the end than to the beginning, but I have certainly enjoyed this series so far, and I hope you guys are as well. So let me know any other video ideas down below in the comment section. Of course, always open to anything and everything you guys are looking to see. And yeah, as always, man. All right, man, that'll do it for me. As always, thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll catch you guys all in the next one.